The morning sun was just breaking over the hills when Rosa heard the sound of running feet on gravel. She looked up from fixing the broken fence wire, wiping sweat from her forehead with the back of her work glove. At 52, Rosa had seen enough of life to know when something was wrong. A small figure was racing across the field toward her ranch. The child stumbled, got back up, and kept running. Rosa dropped her tools and started walking toward the little girl, her heart already beating faster. The girl couldn't have been more than 8 years old. Her dark hair was tangled, and her pink t-shirt was torn at the shoulder. Tears had made clean tracks down her dusty cheeks, and she was breathing so hard she could barely speak. "Please," the little girl gasped, grabbing Rosa's hand with both of hers. "Please help my mama. He hurt her real bad this time." Rosa knelt down to the child's level, her own hands trembling slightly. 20 years ago, she had been in a similar place. 20 years ago, she had been the one needing help, running from a man who thought his fists could solve every problem. "What's your name, sweetheart?" Rosa asked gently. "Lily," the girl whispered. "Lily Chen. My mama is hurt and she won't wake up and I don't know what to do." Rosa's chest tightened. She had built this ranch with her own 2 hands after escaping her violent marriage. She had sworn that if she ever had the chance to help someone else in the same situation, she wouldn't hesitate. "Where is your mama, Lily?" "At the trailer park. The blue one with the broken steps." "Please, lady, I walked so far to find you. Someone said you were nice and might help." Rosa stood up and looked toward the trailer park about 3 miles away. She had driven past it many times on her way to town. The place always made her sad. Rows of old trailers where people struggled to get by, where dreams often went to die. "How do you know about me?" Rosa asked, still holding Lily's small hand. "I saw you before by the creek. You gave me water when I was thirsty. You smiled at me and didn't ask mean questions like other grown-ups do." Rosa remembered now. A few weeks ago, she had found a little girl by the creek that ran along her property line. The child had been alone, looking scared and tired. Rosa had given her a bottle of water and some crackers from her truck. "Is your mama hurt bad, Lily?" The little girl nodded, fresh tears starting to fall. He was drinking again. "Mama told me to go hide in my room, but I could hear everything. The yelling, the hitting, things breaking. Then it got real quiet, and when I came out, Mama was on the kitchen floor and wouldn't answer me." Rosa's jaw clenched. She knew exactly what Lily was describing. She had lived through it herself, had been the woman on the kitchen floor more times than she cared to remember. "Where is the man who hurt your mama?" "He left, got in his truck and drove away real fast after he saw Mama wasn't moving." Rosa pulled out her phone and checked the time. It was still early, maybe 7 in the morning. If Lily's mother was unconscious, every minute mattered. "Lily, I'm going to help your mama, okay? But first I need you to tell me, is there anyone else at your trailer who might hurt us if we go there?" "No, it's just Mom and me. He doesn't live with us, but he comes over and Mama can't make him leave." Rosa had heard this story too many times. Women trapped by fear, by poverty, by the belief that they had no other choice. She had been lucky enough to escape, and now she had the means to help others do the same. "Come on, sweetheart. Let's go help your mama." Rosa led Lily to her pickup truck, a sturdy red vehicle that had served her well over the years. She helped the little girl into the passenger seat and buckled her seatbelt. As they drove toward the trailer park, Rosa's mind was racing. She was already thinking about what they might find, what help Lily's mother might need. She had her phone ready to call for an ambulance if necessary. "What's your mama's name, Lily?" "Ann. Ann Chen. She works at the diner in town sometimes when they need extra help." Rosa knew the diner. It was a small place where people went for cheap coffee and simple meals. The kind of job that paid barely enough to survive, especially for a single mother. "Tell me about your mama, Lily. What does she like to do?" Rosa asked this question partly to keep the little girl talking, and partly because she wanted to understand the woman they were going to help. In her experience, knowing someone's humanity made all the difference in helping them heal. "Mama likes to draw. She draws pictures of flowers and birds. She wanted to be an artist before I was born, but then Daddy died and everything got hard." "Your daddy died? I'm sorry, sweetheart. I don't remember him much. Mama says he was a good man who loved us both. He got sick when I was little." Rosa felt her heart break a little more. A young widow struggling to raise a child alone, vulnerable to men who would take advantage of her desperation. It was a story Rosa had heard too many times. The trailer park came into view, and Rosa could see why people called it rough. The trailers were old and many needed repairs. Some had tarps covering holes in their roofs. Children's toys were scattered in yards where the grass had long since given up growing. "Which one is yours, Lily?" "The blue one." "Over there." Lily pointed to a trailer near the back of the park. Rosa could see that the steps leading to the front door were indeed broken, held up by cinder blocks. As they got closer, Rosa noticed that the front door was hanging open. This wasn't a good sign. If Anne was unconscious inside, leaving the door open meant she was in no condition to protect herself. Rosa parked the truck and looked at Lily. "I want you to stay here for just a minute while I go check on your mama, okay?" "No!" Lily grabbed Rosa's arm. "I want to come with you. What if he comes back? What if Mama needs me?" Rosa understood the fear. When you're 8 years old and your world isn't safe, staying close to the one adult who seems willing to help makes sense. "Okay, but you stay right behind me. And if I tell you to go back to the truck, you run as fast as you can. Deal?" "Deal." They walked up the broken steps together. Rosa could smell alcohol and something else, the metallic scent of blood. Her stomach turned, but she kept her face calm for Lily's sake. The inside of the trailer was small and cramped, but Rosa could see that Anne had tried to make it a home. There were crayon drawings stuck to the refrigerator with magnets and a small vase of wildflowers on the kitchen table, but there were also signs of violence everywhere. A chair was overturned, dishes were broken on the floor, and there was a hole in the wall where someone's fist had gone through the thin paneling. And there, on the kitchen floor, was Anne. Rosa's heart stopped for a moment. The woman was lying very still, her long black hair spread around her head like a dark halo. Her face was swollen and bruised, and there was dried blood on her forehead. "Mama." Lily started to run forward, but Rosa caught her gently. "Let me check on her first, sweetheart." Rosa knelt beside Anne and carefully checked for a pulse. It was there, steady but weak. Anne was breathing, but she was unconscious. The blood on her forehead had stopped flowing, which was good, but the swelling around her eyes and the way she was lying made Rosa worry about head injuries. "Is she okay?" Lily whispered. "She's alive, baby. But we need to get her to a doctor right away." Rosa pulled out her phone and dialed 911. While she waited for the operator to answer, she looked around the trailer more carefully. This had been a bad beating, worse than many she had seen. The man who did this had been in a rage, the kind of anger that doesn't stop until someone is seriously hurt. "Donham, what's your emergency?" "I need an ambulance at the Sunset Trailer Park. A woman has been severely beaten and is unconscious. She needs immediate medical attention." Rosa gave the dispatcher all the information she could, including the exact location of the trailer and Anne's condition. While she was on the phone, she noticed Lily sitting on the floor next to her mother, gently stroking her hair. "It's okay, Mama," Lily whispered. "The nice lady is here. She's going to help us." After hanging up with 911, Rosa called the sheriff's office. This wasn't just a medical emergency, it was a crime scene. The man who did this needed to be found and arrested before he could hurt anyone else. While they waited for help to arrive, Rosa sat on the floor with Lily and Anne. She had learned long ago that sometimes the most important thing you can do is simply be present with someone in their darkest moment. "Thank you," Lily said quietly. "For coming with me. For helping Mama. You don't need to thank me, sweetheart. This is what people should do for each other." Rosa meant those words. She had spent too many years believing she deserved the violence, that it was normal, that no one would help her if she asked. When she finally found the courage to leave her abusive husband, it was because one person, a nurse at the hospital, had looked her in the eye and said, "You deserve better than this." Now it was Rosa's turn to be that person for someone else. In the distance, she could hear sirens getting closer. Help was coming. But Rosa knew that the real work, the long, difficult process of healing and rebuilding, was just beginning. She looked at Lily, still stroking her mother's hair, still whispering words of comfort. This little girl had shown incredible courage, walking 3 miles to find help for her mother. She had probably saved Anne's life. "You're very brave, Lily," Rosa said. "Your mama is lucky to have you." "I just want her to be okay," Lily replied. "I want us to be safe." "You will be," Rosa promised, though she knew it wouldn't be easy. The paramedics moved with practiced efficiency, their red and blue lights painting the trailer park in urgent colors. Rosa watched as they carefully examined Anne, checking her vital signs and asking questions that only medical training could answer. "Ma'am, are you family?" one of the paramedics asked Rosa. No, but I'm the one who found her. This is her daughter, Lily. The paramedic, a young woman with kind eyes, knelt down to Lily's level. Hi there. Can you tell me what happened to your mama? Lily looked up at Rosa, who nodded encouragingly. Her boyfriend hit her. He was drinking and got real mad about something. Mama told me to hide, but I could hear everything. The paramedic's expression grew serious. She exchanged a look with her partner, an older man who was preparing equipment to move Anne safely. How long ago did this happen, sweetheart? I don't know. It was still dark outside when I ran to get help. Maybe 2 hours? 2 hours. Rosa felt sick thinking about Anne lying, unconscious on that floor for 2 hours while a little girl tried to figure out how to save her mother's life. She's got a serious head injury, the male paramedic said quietly to his partner. Possible concussion, definitely needs a CT scan. And look at these bruises. This wasn't just one hit. Rosa had seen enough violence in her own life to recognize the signs. This had been a prolonged beating, the kind that comes from rage that builds and builds until it explodes into something terrifying. The sheriff's deputy arrived just as the paramedics were getting ready to transport Anne to the hospital. Deputy Martinez was a woman in her 40s who Rosa had met a few times at community events. She had a reputation for taking domestic violence cases seriously. Rosa, what are you doing here? Deputy Martinez asked. Lily came to my ranch for help. She walked 3 miles to find someone who would listen. Deputy Martinez looked around the destroyed trailer, taking pictures and making notes. Where's the perpetrator now? He left right after it happened, Lily said in a small voice. He got scared when Mama wouldn't wake up. Can you describe him for me, honey? Lily gave a description of a man named Kyle Morrison, someone who had been coming around for about 6 months. He drove a black pickup truck and worked construction when he could find jobs. Rosa wrote down everything Lily said, knowing that details might be important later. We'll put out a BOLO alert, Deputy Martinez said, and I'll need to process this scene as evidence. The paramedics were ready to leave. Anne was secured on a stretcher, still unconscious but breathing steadily. Her face was so swollen that Rosa could barely make out her features. Which hospital? Rosa asked. County General. Are you coming with us? Rosa looked at Lily, who was staring at her mother with eyes full of fear. Can she ride with her mother? Family only usually, but given the circumstances. The paramedic looked at Deputy Martinez, who nodded. I'll follow in my truck, Rosa said. Lily, you go with your mama. I'll be right behind you. But Lily shook her head and grabbed Rosa's hand. What if you don't come? What if I'm alone? The fear in the little girl's voice broke Rosa's heart. In Lily's experience, adults made promises they didn't keep. Adults left when things got difficult. Adults hurt the people you loved most. I promise I'll be there, Rosa said, kneeling down to look Lily in the eyes. I'm not going anywhere, but your mama needs you with her right now. Deputy Martinez stepped forward. Rosa's good for her word, kid. If she says she'll be there, she'll be there. Lily nodded reluctantly and climbed into the ambulance. Rosa watched as they drove away, sirens wailing, carrying a broken family toward what she hoped would be the beginning of healing. The drive to the hospital gave Rosa time to think. She had acted on instinct so far, responding to an immediate crisis. But now she needed to think about what came next. Anne would need medical care, probably for several days. Lily would need somewhere safe to stay. And when Anne recovered enough to make decisions, they would both need protection from Kyle. Rosa knew how the system worked, and she knew it wasn't always enough. Restraining orders were just pieces of paper to men like Kyle. Shelters were overcrowded and underfunded. Social services did their best. But they were overwhelmed. But Rosa had something the system didn't have: resources, determination, and personal experience with exactly what Anne and Lily were going through. At the hospital, Rosa found Lily sitting alone in the emergency room waiting area, her legs swinging from a chair that was too big for her. She looked so small and lost that Rosa's throat tightened with emotion. How is she? Rosa asked, sitting down next to Lily. They won't tell me much because I'm a kid. They said she's alive and they're doing tests. A nurse approached them, clipboard in hand. Are you family? I'm the person who found her, Rosa explained. This is her daughter. Is there any word on her condition? The nurse looked at Lily sympathetically. She's stable, but she has a severe concussion and some internal injuries. She's going to need surgery to stop some internal bleeding. Surgery. Rosa felt Lily's small hand slip into hers. Will she be okay? Lily whispered. The doctors are very good here, the nurse said gently, but it's going to take time for her to heal. After the nurse left, Rosa and Lily settled in for what she knew would be a long wait. The emergency room was busy. Other families dealing with their own crises, people waiting for news about loved ones. The constant background noise of a place where life and death decisions were made every day. "Are you hungry?" Rosa asked. "There's a cafeteria here." Lily shook her head. "My tummy feels funny. Like when Mama and Kyle fight." Rosa understood. Fear had a way of making food seem impossible. "How often do they fight, Lily?" "A lot. At first it was just yelling, but then it got worse. Mama tried to make him leave, but he always came back. He said we needed him because Mama couldn't take care of us by herself." The classic pattern of abuse, isolation, control, making the victim believe they were helpless without their abuser. Rosa had heard these same lies from her own ex-husband. "Your mama loves you very much," Rosa said. "Sometimes grown-ups get stuck in bad situations and they don't know how to get out. But that doesn't mean it's their fault." "I tried to help," Lily said, tears starting again. "I tried to be good so he wouldn't get mad. But nothing worked." Rosa pulled the little girl closer, letting her cry. "It's not your job to fix grown-up problems, sweetheart. You're 8 years old. Your job is to be a kid." They sat together for hours as doctors worked on Anne. Rosa bought Lily some juice and crackers from the vending machine, and slowly the little girl began to eat. Rosa told her stories about the ranch, about the horses and the chickens, about the wildflowers that grew in the meadow, about the creek where they had first met. "Do you think Mama would like the ranch?" Lily asked. "I think she would love it. It's very peaceful there. We've never lived anywhere peaceful. There's always somebody yelling or fighting or drinking." Rosa's heart ached for this child who had never known safety as normal. Every kid deserved to grow up thinking peace was the default. That home was a place of comfort and security. Around midnight, a doctor finally came to talk to them. Dr. Patel was a tired-looking woman in her 50s who sat down across from them in the waiting area. "Anne is going to recover," she said, and Rosa felt Lily sag with relief beside her. "But it's going to take time. The surgery went well, we stopped the internal bleeding. But she has a serious concussion, broken ribs and extensive bruising. She'll need to stay in the hospital for at least a week." "When can I see her?" Lily asked. "She's sleeping now, but you can see her for a few minutes if you want. She might not wake up, but sometimes people can hear us even when they're unconscious." They followed Dr. Patel to the intensive care unit. Anne looked so small in the hospital bed, connected to machines that beeped and hummed. Her face was bandaged, and what Rosa could see was purple and swollen. Lily climbed onto the chair next to the bed and carefully took her mother's hand. "Mama, it's me. The nice lady helped us, just like you said someone would if we ever really needed help. You're going to be okay now." Rosa watched this little girl comfort her unconscious mother and felt something shift inside her chest. She had lived alone on her ranch for 20 years, finding peace in solitude after the chaos of her marriage. But looking at Lily and Anne, she realized that healing didn't have to be a solitary journey. "Lily," she said softly, "would you like to come stay at the ranch while your mama gets better?" Lily looked up with hope in her eyes. "Really, both of us?" "Both of you. When your mama is ready to leave the hospital, you'll both come home with me. For as long as you need. But what about Kyle? What if he finds us?" Rosa's expression hardened. "Kyle will never hurt you or your mama again. I promise you that." It was a big promise, one that would require careful planning and help from law enforcement. But Rosa meant every word. She had the resources to keep them safe, and she had the determination to see it through. As they prepared to leave the hospital for the night, Rosa called Deputy Martinez to check on the search for Kyle. He hadn't been found yet, but his truck had been spotted near the state line. There was hope he might be arrested soon. "Where are you taking the girl tonight?" Deputy Martinez asked. "Home with me. I've got plenty of space, and she shouldn't be alone." "That's good of you, Rosa. Child Services will want to do a home visit, but given the circumstances and your standing in the community." The next morning, Rosa woke up to the sound of small feet padding around her kitchen. She found Lily standing on a chair trying to reach the coffee mugs in the cabinet. "I wanted to make coffee like Mama does," Lily explained, looking embarrassed. "I thought maybe you'd want some." Rosa's heart melted. Even in this strange place, this little girl was trying to take care of the adult in her life. It was a responsibility no 8-year-old should carry. "That's very sweet of you, but how about I make us some breakfast instead?" Do you like pancakes? Lily's eyes lit up. Real pancakes? Not from a box? Real pancakes from scratch. My grandmother taught me how to make them when I was about your age. As Rosa mixed the batter, Lily sat at the kitchen table and looked out the window at the ranch. The morning sun was painting everything golden. The pastures, the barn, the horses grazing peacefully in the distance. It's so quiet here, Lily said, but not scary quiet. Good quiet. Rosa understood the difference. In Lily's world, quiet often meant someone was planning something bad, or that violence had just ended. Here, quiet meant peace. Would you like to see the horses after breakfast? Can I? I've never been close to a real horse before. They ate pancakes while Rosa explained about the different animals on the ranch. She had 3 horses, a dozen chickens, 2 barn cats, and an old dog named Buddy who was probably still sleeping on the porch. Do they ever hurt you? Lily asked. The animals, I mean. Only if they're scared or sick. But if you're gentle and respectful, they're usually gentle back. Animals are a lot like people that way. After breakfast, they drove back to the hospital. Rosa had called ahead and learned that Anne was awake but still very weak. The doctors wanted to keep her for observation for at least another few days. When they entered Anne's hospital room, Rosa got her first real look at the woman Lily had risked everything to save. Even bruised and bandaged, Anne Chen was clearly a beautiful woman. She had delicate features and long, straight black hair that someone had carefully braided to keep it out of her face. But it was her eyes that struck Rosa most. They held pain but also a fierce love when they looked at her daughter. Mama. Lily ran to the bedside, careful not to jostle the bed. Hi, baby, Anne whispered, her voice hoarse from the breathing tube that had been removed that morning. Are you okay? I was so worried about you. I'm fine, Mama. Rosa took care of me. She has horses and she made me real pancakes. Anne's eyes moved to Rosa, and for a moment she looked away in shame. Rosa recognized the feeling, the humiliation that comes with having your private hell exposed to a stranger. Thank you, Anne said quietly. Lily told me what you did. I don't know how to repay you. You don't need to repay me, Rosa said, pulling up a chair beside the bed. I'm just glad we found you in time. I should have left him months ago. I should have protected her better. Rosa had heard these words before from her own mouth 20 years ago. Anne, look at me. This is not your fault. None of it. Anne's eyes filled with tears. But I let him come back. Every time he promised he'd change, I believed him. I was so stupid. You weren't stupid. You were hopeful. Hope isn't a character flaw. Over the next hour, Anne's story came out in pieces. She had been married to Lily's father, David, who died in a car accident when Lily was 4. For 2 years after his death, Anne had focused entirely on survival, working multiple jobs, trying to keep their small apartment, raising Lily alone. Kyle had seemed like a gift when she met him at the diner where she worked. He was charming, helpful, and good with Lily. He helped with bills when money was tight. He made Anne feel like she wasn't completely alone in the world. But slowly things changed. Kyle started drinking more. He became possessive and jealous. He criticized Anne's parenting, her work, her friends. When she tried to end the relationship, he would apologize and promise to change. And when that didn't work, he would remind her how much she needed him financially. I was trapped, Anne said. I couldn't afford to move, couldn't afford childcare if I worked more hours. He made sure I knew how helpless I was without him. Rosa nodded. She had lived this same story with her ex-husband, the gradual erosion of independence, the systematic destruction of self-worth, the way abusers made their victims believe they had no other options. Where is he now? Anne asked, fear creeping into her voice. The police are looking for him. Deputy Martinez thinks they'll find him soon. He'll come back. He always comes back. And he'll be angrier than ever. Rosa leaned forward. Anne, listen to me carefully. He's never going to hurt you or Lily again. I have a safe place for both of you, and I have the resources to make sure you stay safe. I can't ask you to do that.
You don't even know us. I know enough.
I know that your daughter loves you so much she walked 3 miles to find help. I know that you've been doing everything you can to survive an impossible situation. And I know that everyone deserves to live without fear. That afternoon, while Anne slept, Rosa took Lily to the hospital cafeteria for lunch. Over grilled cheese sandwiches and soup, Lily began to share more about their life with Kyle. He wasn't always mean, Lily said. At first he brought me toys and told Mama she was pretty. But then he started getting mad about little things. Like if dinner wasn't ready when he wanted it, or if Mama talked to other people at work. Did he ever hurt you, Lily? Not with his hands. But he yelled at me a lot, called me names. And sometimes when he was really mad at Mama, he would say it was my fault because I cost too much money. Rosa felt anger building in her chest. It was one thing to abuse a woman, but to make a child feel responsible for that abuse was particularly cruel. That was never true, Lily. You are not expensive, or difficult, or any of the things he said. You're a wonderful little girl and your Mama loves you very much. I know Mama loves me, but sometimes I wondered if things would be easier for her if I wasn't around. Rosa put down her sandwich and looked directly at Lily. Your Mama's life is better because you're in it. You're the most important thing in her world. Never doubt that. They spent the rest of the afternoon in Anne's room. Rosa watched as mother and daughter comforted each other, sharing quiet conversations and gentle touches. It reminded her of her own relationship with her daughter during their early days of freedom. Rosa's daughter, Carmen, was grown now with a family of her own in another state. They talked regularly, and Carmen often told Rosa how grateful she was that Rosa had found the courage to leave her abusive father. You saved both our lives, Carmen would say. Now Rosa had the chance to save 2 more lives. That evening, Deputy Martinez came by the hospital with an update. Kyle had been arrested at a truck stop 2 states away. He was being charged with aggravated assault and would be held without bail due to his history of domestic violence. How long will he be in jail? Anne asked. With his record and the severity of this attack, probably several years, and there will be a restraining order in place when he gets out. Anne closed her eyes, and for the first time since Rosa had met her, she looked truly peaceful. The immediate threat was gone. What happens now? Anne asked. I can't go back to the trailer. I can't afford anywhere else. You're going to come stay at my ranch, Rosa said. Both of you. For as long as you need, I can't accept charity. I have to be able to take care of Lily myself. Rosa understood the pride behind those words. She had felt the same way 20 years ago when people tried to help her. Independence was important, especially when someone had worked so hard to steal it from you. It's not charity, Rosa said. It's a fresh start. You can work on the ranch if you want to earn your keep. I could use help with the horses and the business side of things. I don't know anything about ranches. You can learn. And Lily can go to the good school in town instead of whatever school she was going to before. Rosa had done some research that afternoon. The school near the trailer park was overcrowded and underfunded. The school in her district was small but excellent, with teachers who actually had time to help individual students. Why are you doing this? Anne asked. Really? Why would you change your whole life for strangers? Rosa was quiet for a moment, thinking about how to explain. 20 years ago, I was lying in a hospital bed just like this one. My husband had broken 3 of my ribs and given me a concussion. My daughter was in foster care because I couldn't take care of her. Anne's eyes widened. She hadn't expected this. A nurse named Helen sat with me that night and told me I didn't have to go back to him. She gave me the phone number for a women's shelter and helped me make a plan to leave safely. Because of Helen, my daughter and I got out. Because of Helen, I built a life where I could help other people. What happened to Helen? She retired a few years ago. But before she did, she told me something I'll never forget. She said that healing isn't just about fixing what's broken in yourself. Sometimes it's about helping fix what's broken in someone else. Anne was crying now. Not from pain, but from something else. Hope, maybe. Or relief at finally meeting someone who understood. I'm scared, Anne whispered. I've been controlled for so long I don't know how to make decisions for myself anymore. That's okay. Fear is normal. But you've already made the most important decision, to survive. Everything else we can figure out together. As visiting hours ended, Rosa prepared to take Lily back to the ranch for another night. 2 weeks after bringing Anne and Lily home to the ranch, Rosa found herself watching a transformation that amazed her every day. Lily had taken to ranch life like she was born to it, helping feed the chickens each morning and talking to the horses like they were old friends. But it was Anne's gradual awakening that really took Rosa's breath away. The first few days had been hard. Anne barely spoke, jumped at sudden noises, and apologized constantly for taking up space. She would ask permission to use the bathroom, to get a glass of water, to sit on the porch. Rosa recognized these behaviors from her own early days of freedom, the way abuse trained you to believe you had no right to basic human needs. You don't need permission for anything here. Rosa told her gently over and over. This is your home now, too. Slowly, Anne began to believe it. The guest cottage where Anne and Lily were staying had been built years ago for ranch hands, but Rosa had fixed it up into a comfortable 2-bedroom home. It had a small kitchen, a living room with windows facing the mountains, and a front porch where Anne could sit and draw while Lily played in the yard. Drawing had been the key to Anne's healing. Rosa discovered this by accident when she found Anne sketching on the back of an old envelope, her hands moving with the kind of confidence that only came from years of practice. "You're really talented," Rosa said, looking over Anne's shoulder at a perfect sketch of Lily playing with the barn cats. Anne blushed and started to crumple up the paper. "It's just silly doodling." "No," Rosa said firmly, smoothing out the paper. "It's art. It's beautiful." That weekend, Rosa drove to town and came back with a bag full of art supplies: sketch pads, charcoal pencils, colored pencils, even a small set of watercolors. Anne's face lit up like Christmas morning. "I can't accept these," Anne protested, but her hands were already reaching for the supplies. "They're not a gift," Rosa said with a smile. "They're a business investment. I've been thinking about having some custom artwork done for the ranch, signs, maybe some drawings to sell to tourists. Think you might be interested in a job?" It was a gentle fiction, but Anne seemed to understand. Having work, having purpose was important for rebuilding self-worth. Over the following days, Anne began to spend hours on the front porch, sketching the horses, the landscape, the way morning light hit the barn. Her confidence grew with each drawing, and Rosa could see glimpses of the woman Anne had been before Kyle, creative, talented, full of quiet strength. Meanwhile, Lily was flourishing in ways that broke Rosa's heart with their beauty. The little girl who had been afraid to speak above a whisper was now chattering constantly, asking questions about everything from why horses liked sugar cubes to how clouds stayed up in the sky. Rosa enrolled Lily in the local elementary school, and after some initial nervousness, she began making friends. Her teacher, Mrs. Rodriguez, called Rosa after the first week. "I wanted you to know that Lily is doing wonderfully," Mrs. Rodriguez said. "She's reading at a level far above her grade, and her writing is quite sophisticated for her age." "Has she been getting extra help?" "Not formally," Rosa replied. "But her mother is very bright, and I think she's been teaching Lily at home. Well, whatever you're doing, keep it up. She's a special little girl." Rosa smiled as she hung up the phone. Of course, Lily was special. She was Anne's daughter, raised with love despite impossible circumstances. The legal aspects of their situation took longer to sort out. Rosa's lawyer, Margaret Collins, was a woman who specialized in domestic violence cases and understood the complexities of helping families escape abuse. "The restraining order is solid," Margaret explained during one of their meetings. "Kyle Morrison won't be eligible for parole for at least 3 years, and when he gets out, he's prohibited from coming within 500 feet of Anne or Lily." "What about custody issues?" Rosa asked. "Does Kyle have any legal rights to Lily?" "None. He never adopted her, and he has no biological relationship to her. Anne has full custody, and there's no one else with any legal claim." This was a relief. Rosa had seen cases where abusive men used custody battles to continue tormenting their victims. Anne and Lily were free from that threat. "I'd like to discuss something else," Rosa said. "If Anne agrees, I'd like to set up a trust fund for Lily's education. And I want to make sure Anne has legal options if anything happens to me." Margaret raised an eyebrow. "Are you thinking about adoption?" "Not exactly, but I want to make sure they're protected. They're family now." The conversation with Anne about the trust fund was harder than Rosa expected. They were sitting on the porch after dinner watching Lily chase fireflies in the yard when Rosa brought it up. "I've been thinking about Lily's future," Rosa began. "About college, about making sure she has opportunities." Anne's posture stiffened slightly. "Rosa, you've already done so much. I can't let you pay for Lily's education too. It's not about letting me do anything. It's about what I want to do. I don't have grandchildren, Anne. My daughter lives across the country and she's focused on her own family. But Lily, she feels like family to me." Anne was quiet for a long moment watching her daughter play. "What if we disappoint you? What if this doesn't work out the way you're hoping? Then we'll figure something else out." "But Anne, I've been watching you both for weeks now. I've seen how hard you work, how much you love your daughter, how determined you are to build a better life. You're not going to disappoint me." I just want to be able to take care of her myself eventually. And you will. This is just about making sure she has choices no matter what happens. That night, after Lily was in bed, Anne knocked on Rosa's door. She was carrying a small canvas, one of several Rosa had bought her to experiment with painting. I wanted to show you something, Anne said shyly. The painting was of the ranch house at sunset. But it wasn't just a landscape. Somehow Anne had captured the feeling of the place, the peace, the safety, the sense of home that Rosa had worked 20 years to build. Anne, this is incredible. You're not just talented, you're gifted. I was thinking, maybe we could start small. Like you said, signs for the ranch. Maybe some paintings to sell at the farmer's market in town. I could earn money for our expenses. Rosa felt tears prick her eyes. This was what healing looked like. Not just surviving, but beginning to thrive. Anne was starting to see a future where she could support herself and her daughter with her art. I think that's a wonderful idea. In fact, I know the woman who runs the farmer's market. Let me give her a call. The farmer's market venture started small. Anne painted a few simple signs for local businesses and sold some small landscape paintings. But word spread quickly about the talented artist at the market. And soon Anne had more commissions than she could handle. Rosa watched Anne's confidence grow with each sale, each compliment from a customer, each check she deposited in her own bank account. Anne was building independence, but she was doing it from a place of safety rather than desperation. Lily was thriving too. She had made a best friend at school, a girl named Zoe whose family ran the local bakery. Lily started spending afternoons at Zoe's house, experiencing the normal chaos of a large, happy family for the first time in her life. Is it okay that I like going to Zoe's house? Lily asked Rosa one evening. I don't want Mama to think I don't want to be with her. Rosa understood the question behind the question. Lily had spent so long being her mother's protector and companion that she felt guilty about having her own friendships and interests. Your mama wants you to have friends and fun, Rosa said. That's what good mothers want for their children. And you know what? Your mama's making friends too. This was true. Anne had connected with several other women at the farmer's market, including Janet, who ran a pottery booth, and Maria, who sold handmade jewelry. For the first time in years, Anne was developing friendships based on shared interests rather than mutual survival. The three women started meeting for coffee once a week, and Rosa could see how much these friendships meant to Anne. She was remembering how to be social, how to laugh, how to exist as more than just a mother trying to protect her child. One evening in late autumn, Rosa found Anne and Lily in the kitchen making dinner together. They were laughing about something Lily had done at school that day, and the sound filled the house with warmth. Anne was wearing a paint-stained apron over jeans and a sweater, her hair pulled back in a messy bun. She looked relaxed and happy in a way Rosa had never seen before. How was the market today? Rosa asked. Amazing, Anne replied, her eyes bright with excitement. I sold 3 paintings and got a commission for a portrait. Mrs. Patterson wants me to paint her granddaughter. That's wonderful. You're really building something special. I know. Sometimes I can't believe this is real. 6 months ago, I thought my life was over. I thought I'd never be anything more than a victim. Rosa leaned against the kitchen counter, watching Anne stir pasta sauce. What changed your mind? You, Anne said simply. And Lily, and this place. I started to remember who I was before Kyle. I started to believe I deserved better. You've always deserved better. You just needed time and space to remember that. That night after Lily had gone to bed, Anne and Rosa sat on the porch drinking tea and watching the stars. It had become their routine, these quiet evening conversations where they shared stories about their pasts and dreams for their futures. 1 year after that desperate morning when Lily had run across the fields to find help, Rosa stood in the barn, watching her chosen family prepare for the ranch's first annual art festival. Anne was directing the placement of easels, while Lily carefully arranged paintings on display tables, and the sight filled Rosa with a happiness she hadn't known was possible. Anne's art business had grown beyond anyone's expectations. What started as simple paintings sold at the farmer's market had evolved into a thriving business that attracted customers from 3 counties. Her portraits were particularly popular, and she had developed a waiting list of families wanting her to capture their children in paint and charcoal. But more than the financial success, Rosa was amazed by the confidence that radiated from Anne now. The broken woman who had apologized for existing had transformed into someone who knew her worth, who spoke up for herself, who made decisions with certainty and grace. "Rosa, where do you want me to put the welcoming sign?" Lily called out, struggling with a wooden sign that Anne had painted with beautiful flowing letters reading, "Chen Gallery Ranch Tour." "Right by the gate, sweetheart." "Need help with that?" "I got it," Lily said, her face scrunched with determination. At 9 years old, she had grown 3 inches and gained 20 pounds of healthy weight. Her eyes, once haunted with fear, now sparkled with the kind of mischief that belonged to children who felt safe to be children. The art festival had been Anne's idea, but it had grown into something that involved the whole community. Local artists would display their work throughout the ranch buildings. Visitors could take guided tours to meet the animals, and Anne would offer painting lessons for children. "I can't believe we pulled this together," Anne said, stepping back to admire their setup. She was wearing a yellow sundress that she had bought with her own money, the first new dress she'd purchased in years, and her hair was pulled back with a colorful scarf. "You pulled this together," Rosa corrected. "This was your vision." "Our vision," Anne said firmly. "None of this would exist without you." It was true that Rosa had provided the foundation, the land, the initial safety, the belief that Anne and Lily deserved better. But everything that had grown from that foundation was purely Anne's creation. The first visitors arrived at 10 in the morning, and by noon, the ranch was bustling with families, art lovers, and curious neighbors. Rosa found herself in the unexpected role of hostess, greeting visitors and sharing the story of how the ranch had become an art destination. She was careful to protect Anne and Lily's privacy, sharing only what they were comfortable with, but people were drawn to the obvious love and healing that permeated the place. Children gravitated toward Lily, who gave expert tours of the chicken coop and horse pasture. Adults lingered over Anne's paintings, drawn not just to their technical skill, but to the joy and peace they conveyed. "This place has such a beautiful energy," one visitor commented to Rosa. "You can feel the love here." Rosa smiled, thinking about how different the ranch felt now compared to the quiet solitude she had maintained for 20 years. The addition of Anne and Lily hadn't disrupted her peace. It had enriched it beyond measure. Around 2 in the afternoon, Rosa was surprised to see a familiar figure approaching the display area. Deputy Martinez, now retired, had driven out from town with her granddaughter. "Rosa, this is amazing," Deputy Martinez said, gesturing around the festival. "And Anne, look at you. You're absolutely glowing." Anne blushed but smiled confidently. "Thank you, Deputy Martinez. I never could have imagined this a year ago. Please call me Carmen, and I have some news that might interest you. Kyle Morrison was denied parole last week. He'll serve his full sentence." Rosa felt Anne tense slightly beside her, but when she looked at her, Anne's expression was more relieved than afraid. "Thank you for letting us know," Anne said. "But honestly, I don't think about him much anymore. That part of my life feels like a different person's story." It was a remarkable statement from someone who had once lived in constant fear. Rosa squeezed Anne's hand, proud of how far she had come. Later that afternoon, as the festival was winding down, Rosa found herself in conversation with Dr. Sarah Chen, a child psychologist who had driven down from the State University to see the festival. "I hope you don't mind me saying this," Dr. Chen said, "but I've been watching your daughter interact with people all day, and she's remarkable. Her emotional intelligence, her confidence, her natural leadership, she's thriving in a way that's beautiful to see." Rosa was about to correct the assumption that Lily was her daughter, but then she stopped. In every way that mattered, Lily was her granddaughter. Biology didn't define family, love did. "She's been through a lot," Rosa said simply, "but she's incredibly resilient. It's more than resilience. She's been given something precious, the security to develop her authentic self. That's a gift that will serve her for life." As the sun began to set and the last visitors left, Rosa, Anne, and Lily collapsed on the porch steps, exhausted but exhilarated. "We sold 16 paintings," Anne announced, barely able to contain her excitement. 16! "And I have 5 new commission requests. And I gave tours to 43 people," Lily added proudly. "I counted. You were both amazing," Rosa said. "I'm so proud of you." They sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching the horses graze in the evening light. It was the same view Rosa had contemplated alone for 20 years, but it felt completely different now. Richer, fuller, more meaningful. "I've been thinking about something," Anne said, her voice slightly nervous. "About the future." Rosa felt a familiar flutter of anxiety. Even after a year, she sometimes worried that Anne would decide to leave, to build an independent life somewhere else. "I want to make this official," Anne continued. "The ranch, our family, everything. I want to buy into the ranch as a partner." Rosa's eyebrows rose in surprise. "Anne, you don't need to." "I do need to. Not because you've asked me to, but because I want to. My art business is successful enough that I can contribute real money to the ranch operations. I want to expand the studio space, maybe add guest cabins for art retreat weekends. I want to build something lasting with you." Rosa felt tears prick her eyes. "Are you sure? That's a big commitment." "The biggest. But this is home, Rosa, your family. This is where I want to build my future." That evening, after Lily had gone to bed, Rosa and Anne sat on the porch with a bottle of wine, planning their future as business partners. They talked about expanding the art studio, developing educational programs for children, maybe even starting a scholarship fund for young artists from difficult backgrounds. "I want to help other families like us," Anne said. "Families who need a safe place to heal and rebuild." "That's a beautiful vision," Rosa replied. "But are you ready for that? Opening your life to other people's trauma?" "I think so. I've learned so much about healing, about what it takes to rebuild after abuse. Maybe I can help someone else the way you helped me." Rosa looked at this woman who had transformed from victim to survivor, to someone ready to help others make the same journey, and she felt amazed by the power of human resilience. "There's something I want to show you," Rosa said, getting up to go inside. She returned with a photo album she rarely opened, pictures from her own dark years, and then from her early days of freedom. "This was me 22 years ago," she said, pointing to a picture of herself with a black eye and a forced smile. "And this was me a year later when I first bought this land." The second picture showed a woman who looked scared but determined, standing in front of a run-down farmhouse with weeds growing everywhere. "You were so young," Anne said softly, "and so brave." "I was terrified. But I was also angry enough to keep going." Anger can be a useful emotion if you channel it right. They looked through more pictures. Rosa fixing fences, painting the house, learning to care for her first horse. The progression from fear to confidence was visible in each image. "Look at this," Rosa said, turning to a picture near the end of the album. It showed her standing in the same spot where they had held the art festival that day, but the landscape was empty except for the barn and the house. "Now look around," Rosa said, gesturing to the ranch as it existed now, with Anne's art studio, Lily's garden, the improved pastures, the guest cottage that had become a real home. "We built something beautiful together," Anne said. "We did, and we're just getting started." 3 months later, the legal paperwork was finalized, making Anne a 50% owner of the ranch. Rosa insisted on this equal partnership despite Anne's protests, arguing that Anne's vision and energy had transformed the place into something much more valuable than the simple ranch it had been before. The ranch now operated as Healing Hills Ranch and Art Center, offering art classes, retreats, and therapeutic programs for families recovering from trauma. Anne had partnered with local social services to provide art therapy for children, while Rosa developed equine therapy programs using the gentle horses that had always been her companions. Lily, now in 4th grade, was thriving academically and socially. She had developed a particular talent for working with the younger children who came to the ranch, showing a natural ability to help them feel safe and welcome. "I want to be a teacher when I grow up," Lily announced one evening at dinner. "Or maybe a therapist. Or maybe both."